Hello, my dear bachcho. Exams are coming, right? Tension is building up? Don't worry at all. Today we're going to quickly revise a very important chapter, the story of village Palampur. Now I know it sounds like just a story, but trust me, it's full of important economic ideas that are sure to come in your exam. So let's just dive in and nail this chapter together.
Okay, so first, let's take a little trip. We're going to a village called Palampur. Now, you won't find this village on Google Maps, okay? It's a make-believe village, an imaginary one, but it's very much like a real village you'd see in Western UP. And you know what? This village is quite advanced. Just imagine, it has good roads connecting it to nearby towns. It has electricity for homes and for the tube wells in the farms. It has schools, even a health center. It's basically the perfect place to understand how our village economies really work.
So here's what we'll be covering. First, the recipe for production. Then we'll look at farming, which is the main thing in Palampur. After that, we'll talk about the people there. Then, what they do apart from farming. And finally, the most important part, your exam takeaways. Simple, right? Chalo, let's get started.
All right, let's get into the basics. Think about it. To make anything, you need some things, right? Whether it's a delicious hot samosa from the corner shop or a huge tractor, you need a recipe. Well, in economics, we also have a recipe, and the ingredients for this recipe are called the factors of production. Let's see what these special ingredients are.
Now listen very carefully, bachcho. This is a pakka exam question, I'm telling you. The recipe for production has 4 main ingredients. Number 1 is land. And land doesn't just mean the ground, okay? It means all the gifts of nature. Water, forests, minerals, everything. Number 2 is labor, the people who do the work. Obvious, right? Number 3 is physical capital. This is all the tools, machines, buildings, and even the money you need. And the 4th, the special ingredient that puts it all together, is human capital. This is the brain power, the knowledge and skill to use the other 3 things. So what are they? Land, labor, physical capital, and human capital. Remember this.
Okay, let's look a little closer at physical capital, because there are 2 types. It's super simple, don't worry. First, we have fixed capital. Think of it like this. It's fixed. It stays for a long time. Things like a farmer's tractor, a shopkeeper's building. You buy it once and use it for years. The other type is working capital. This is the stuff that gets used up while you're working, like raw materials, say the clay for a potter, or the cash you need every day to run the business. So the potter's wheel is fixed capital, but the clay he uses for each pot is his working capital. Got it? Simple, no? Okay, let's go back to our village, Palampur. Now, for almost everyone there, about 75% of the people, life is all about farming. But they have one big problem. The land. It's fixed. You can't just pull it and make it bigger, can you? So the biggest challenge, the number 1 question for Palampur is, how can we grow more food from the exact same piece of land? So the clever farmers of Palampur came up with 2 solutions. The first one is called multiple cropping. And the name says it all, right? It just means growing multiple crops, more than 1 crop, on the same piece of land in the same year. So for example, during the rainy season, the Kharif season, they might grow jowar and bajra. Then in the middle, they'll grow potatoes. And then in the winter, the rabi season, they'll grow wheat, all on the same field. And how is this possible? Well, because Palampur has good electricity, which means they have a great irrigation system.
And the second solution, this one was a total game changer. It was called modern farming methods, but you probably know it by its more famous name, the Green Revolution. It was a whole package deal. Farmers started using special seeds called high-yielding variety seeds, or HYV seeds, but these seeds were a bit, high maintenance. They weren't magic. To grow really well, they needed plenty of water, chemical fertilizers, and pesticides.
And were the results good? They were incredible. Just look at this graph. It tells you everything. With the old, traditional seeds, a farmer would get around 1,300 kilograms of wheat from 1 hectare. But with the new HYV seeds, guess what? That number jumped to 3,200 kilograms. More than double, can you imagine? From the same piece of land. This was a massive success, especially in places like Punjab, Haryana, and our own Western UP.
But there's always a catch, isn't there? This farming magic had a dark side. The Green Revolution came with a cost. See, all those chemical fertilizers, they started to spoil the soil's natural goodness. And the HYY seeds, they were so thirsty for water. Farmers had to pump out so much groundwater that the water level underground started falling lower and lower. So yes, they were growing more food, but they were also harming the environment for the future. Okay,
So we've talked about the land, we've talked about the crops, but what about the people living in Palampur? Because this story isn't just about farming. It's also about how life wasn't really fair for everyone. All this extra money and food, it wasn't shared equally. Let's just look at the maths. There are 450 families in Palampur, but the land is mostly owned by just a few people. You have about 80 rich families who own these huge farms, but then 1/3 of the village, that's 150 families, mostly from Dalit communities, they have no land at all, zero. And then there are 240 families who are small farmers with tiny little plots of land. It's a very unequal picture, you see. So what happens to the families with no land? Well, people like Dalla and Ramkali, who you read about in your textbook, they have no choice. They have to work on other people's big farms. But the problem is, there are too many workers and not enough work. It's a lot of competition. And because of that, the big farmers can pay them very little. The government says the minimum wage should be 300 rupees a day, but people like Dalla, they get only 160 rupees. That's almost half. It's a very, very difficult life. And it's not just the landless people who are struggling. Even the small farmers, like Savita in our story, have it tough. Imagine this. She needs just 3,000 rupees to buy seeds and fertilizers. But the banks, they won't help her. So what does she do? She has to go to a big farmer, Tejpal Singh, for a loan. And he charges her a crazy interest rate of 24%. Plus, she has to agree to work on his farm for very low wages. She's completely trapped. This is what we call a debt trap. So, we know farming is the main job. But is that all that happens in Palampur? No. About a quarter of the people there, 25%, do other things. These are called non-farm activities. Let's take a quick look at what they are. Okay, first up is dairy farming. This is super common. Lots of families have a buffalo, they get the milk and sell it in a nearby town called Raiganj. And the best part? They get money all year round, not just when the crops are harvested. Next, we have some small-scale manufacturing. For example, there's a man named Mishralal. He has a machine that crushes sugarcane to make jaggery. You know, gur. He uses his own sugarcane and buys from others, and then sells the gur in another town. It's a nice little family business. And guess what? Palampur is getting modern, too. There's this smart guy, Kareem. He saw that all the students from the village had to travel to the city for computer classes. So what did he do? He opened a computer center right there in Palampur. This is a fantastic example of how services are starting to grow in our villages. Okay, my champions, here we are, the final round. This is the most important part, the summary. These are the points you must remember for your exam. So, 100% focus now, okay? Point number 1, land is fixed. We cannot create more of it. Simple. Point number 2, modern farming gives more crops, but it can harm our soil and water. Point number 3, labor is easily available. There are many workers, and so the wages are low. Point number 4, capital, which is money, is very hard for small farmers to get. And finally, point number 5, for villages to grow, non-farm activities are super important. Just remember these 5 points, and I promise you, you can answer any question from this chapter. So, as we leave Palampur, we're left with a big question. It's very clear that farming alone cannot support everyone in the village. The real challenge for India, for our future, is to create more non-farm jobs. More businesses like Kareem's Computer Center and Mishralal's Jaggery Unit in the villages themselves. That's the only way people like Dalla and Savita can have a better life. So think about it. How can we do that? What are your ideas? That's it for this chapter. You have understood it perfectly now. Study well, and all the best for your exams. You are going to do great.